The unseen lives of billionaire hedge fund managers are rarely captured by headlines because what makes them effective is not dramatic, photogenic, or easily summarized. From the outside, they appear as symbols of excess intelligence, ruthless competition, and unimaginable wealth. From the inside, however, their lives are often quieter, more constrained, and more psychologically demanding than most people would willingly choose. Trading and financial literature that draws close to this world reveals a paradox. The more capital and influence these individuals control, the more deliberately narrow and disciplined their personal lives tend to become. One of the least discussed realities is how intensely structured their days are. Billionaire hedge fund managers do not live in constant luxury-fueled spontaneity. Most operate within rigid routines designed to protect cognitive clarity. Wake times, exercise, reading review, and even conversation are often tightly controlled. This is not obsession, it is necessity. When decisions involve billions of dollars and affect markets, governments, and livelihoods, mental fatigue becomes a material risk. Structure is the invisible price of scale. The freedom these individuals appear to enjoy externally is paid for internally with discipline that rarely switches off. Another hidden aspect is solitude. As wealth and reputation grow, honest feedback becomes scarce. Many hedge fund managers describe a progressive narrowing of their social circle, not because they distrust people, but because casual interaction becomes distorted by power dynamics. Conversations change when others know who you are and what you control. This creates a quiet isolation that few anticipate when imagining success. To compensate, many cultivate small, trusted inner circles or rely heavily on written reflection journals and data-driven review rather than verbal reassurance. Their solitude is not loneliness, but containment, a way to preserve objectivity in a world eager to flatter or fear them. Stress, too, is radically misunderstood. The assumption is that wealth reduces stress. In reality, it often transforms it. Early in a career, stress comes from survival. Later, it comes from responsibility. Hedge fund managers carry not only their own capital, but that of institutions, pensions, and sovereign entities. A mistake is no longer personal, it is systemic. This weight shapes behavior profoundly. Risk tolerance becomes more nuanced. Aggression gives way to asymmetry. Preservation becomes as important as growth. The unseen life is therefore one of constant calibration, balancing opportunity against the moral and professional consequences of error. There is also a striking absence of constant market engagement. Contrary to popular myth, many billionaire hedge fund managers do not spend their days glued to screens. They delegate execution, automate processes, and focus instead on higher-level thinking. Their attention is reserved for inflection points, regime changes, and structural shifts, rather than daily noise. This selective engagement is learned painfully over time. Most reached this state only after discovering that constant involvement degraded judgment rather than improved it. The unseen discipline here is restraint, the ability to not act even when action is available. Family life and personal relationships are another rarely examined dimension. Extreme success in hedge funds often comes at a cost that cannot be hedged. Missed milestones, emotional distance, and the challenge of being present when the mind is preoccupied with abstract risk are common themes. Some managers manage this balance carefully, others struggle with it for decades. The unseen truth is that wealth does not solve the problem of attention. It intensifies it. Many eventually impose hard boundaries, not to protect markets from family, but to protect family from markets. Ethical tension is also part of the unseen life. Hedge fund managers operate in environments where legality, morality, and public perception often diverge. Decisions may be lawful, yet controversial. profitable yet publicly criticized. Navigating this tension requires a strong internal compass. Some respond by disengaging from public discourse entirely. Others channel resources into philanthropy or education as a way of restoring balance. Regardless of approach, the unseen work is psychological reconciliation, aligning personal values with professional action in a system that rarely rewards nuance. Perhaps the most surprising element is how many billionaire hedge fund managers continue to feel a sense of fragility. Despite immense wealth, they remain acutely aware of how quickly conditions can change. Markets shift, strategies decay, reputations reverse. This awareness keeps complacency at bay, but also prevents complete relaxation. Many describe success not as a state of arrival, but as a state of constant maintenance. The unseen life is not one of celebration, but of vigilance. What ultimately defines the unseen lives of billionaire hedge fund managers is not extravagance, but constraint. Constraint of time, of attention, of emotion, of trust. Their wealth affords options, but their responsibility imposes limits. This contradiction shapes every aspect of how they live, think, and relate to the world. And it is exactly here, beneath the surface narratives of power and profit, that the deeper reality begins to emerge, a reality in which extreme financial success is sustained not by indulgence, but by self-regulation, practiced relentlessly behind closed doors. And this is where the story of their unseen lives has not yet fully revealed its most important lessons. Lessons that only become visible when attention shifts from performance to preservation, from headlines to habits. In this second layer of the unseen lives of billionaire hedge fund managers, the focus moves from what they do to what they actively avoid, because avoidance more than action is what keeps extreme success intact over decades. One of the most consequential things these managers avoid is constant reinvention. From the outside, it appears that hedge funds thrive on innovation and speed. Internally, the most successful managers are remarkably conservative about change. Strategies evolve, but they do so slowly, with deep testing and limited exposure. Sudden pivots are rare. This restraint exists because they understand how fragile edge can be. Every change introduces new unknowns, and unknowns compound faster at scale. The unseen discipline here is patience with what already works, even when novelty feels tempting. Another avoidance pattern centers on emotional exposure. Many billionaire hedge fund managers deliberately limit situations that provoke strong emotional responses. They avoid excessive media appearances, public debates, and social environments where ego inflation or public confrontation could distort judgment. This is not secrecy for secrecy's sake. It is emotional risk management. Just as they cap financial exposure, they cap psychological exposure. They know that strong emotion, whether praise or criticism, leaks into decision-making in subtle ways. Protecting emotional neutrality becomes a professional obligation. There is also an intentional distance from daily profit and loss obsession. While performance is monitored, closely fixation is discouraged. Many managers delegate P&L tracking or review it at defined intervals rather than constantly. This distance preserves long-term perspective. It prevents short-term fluctuations from hijacking strategy. In their unseen lives, numbers are tools, not identities. This separation allows them to respond to data without being ruled by it. Sleep, often romanticized as optional in high-performance cultures, becomes non-negotiable at this level. Cognitive clarity is recognized as a finite resource. Billionaire hedge fund managers, who last treat sleep as infrastructure, not recovery. Poor sleep degrades judgment, amplifies emotion, and narrows perception, all fatal in environments where mistakes scale quickly. The unseen habit is not working longer, but working clearer, and that requires protecting biological limits with the same seriousness as financial ones. Another quiet feature of their lives is the way they process failure privately. Losses, drawdowns, and strategy decay are not dramatized publicly. They are examined internally, often in writing, with brutal honesty. Blame is not externalized. The question is never who caused this, but what assumption failed. This inward focus accelerates learning and prevents the social contagion of panic. The unseen strength here is accountability without spectacle. Over time, many billionaire hedge fund managers also simplify their lives outside finance. They reduce decision load wherever possible, from clothing to travel routines to social commitments. This simplification is not minimalism as an aesthetic choice, but as cognitive defense. Every unnecessary decision steals energy from the decisions that matter. By making life predictable, they preserve mental flexibility for markets where unpredictability cannot be eliminated. Perhaps the most human and least visible aspect is how these individuals redefine success internally. Early in their careers, success is often measured in returns, recognition, or survival. Later, it shifts towards stability of process and personal equilibrium. A good year becomes one where discipline-held relationships remained intact and decision quality stayed high, regardless of whether performance was exceptional. This reframing is critical. Without it, the pressure to outperform perpetually becomes corrosive. What emerges from this deeper view is a striking inversion of common assumptions. Extreme wealth in hedge funds is not sustained by extreme living, but by extreme moderation. Not by constant confidence, but by constant doubt managed constructively. Not by domination of markets, but by self-domination. The unseen lives of billionaire hedge fund managers are therefore less about enjoying power and more about containing it, channeling it carefully, so it does not destabilize the very systems that created it. In the end, these unseen lives offer a sobering and valuable lesson. The price of operating at the highest levels of finance is not paid in money, but in discipline. Freedom is earned through structure. Longevity is earned through restraint. And while the world may see only the outcomes, the true work happens quietly in routines, boundaries, and internal negotiations. No one applauds. It is here, in this hidden layer of self-regulation, that the most important lessons reside for anyone, seeking not just success, but the ability to sustain it without losing themselves in the process.